So I've got something to say today. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine last night about a myriad of different topics and discussions. And one of the subjects we got onto last night was the false notion that we live in a two-party system. He wanted to argue with me a left-right split right now in modern American politics. But I had to argue with him because I don't think that's what we live in right now. I think we actually live in a more four party or system or just different belief structure right now. We have a mixture of these four elements, right? We've got the people who don't really fall into any party at all. They just kind of go with whatever they end up getting invested in or involved in. They don't have any reason to do it besides, oh, maybe it's interesting or I just want to be a part of something. Then you have the establishment people, those guys who are always in power. They're consistently getting in over and over again. And they actively work against anyone's interests except for their own. Then you have the people who are in it because of ideological reasons. Because this happens on the left and right. The fact that we have them split up like this in the left and right is false when it's more of a belief system at this point. And then we have the people who are there on principle, right? So, like, for example, I'm a very principled person. I don't like the right or the left. I think both parties, the Republicans and Democrats, are terrible. They don't get anything done. And the fact that we go on this tribal basis, I think, is just abhorrently stupid. Where we could be actively rallying around ideas and good people, we're stuck consistently going into tribal problems. I'll only vote for this guy because he's got a D next to his name, or this guy because he's got an R next to her name. Both the parties are ridiculously corrupt. The people in charge are the establishment candidates who stay in over and over again. Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham. On the Republican side, it's ridiculous. These people are awful, but they keep getting elected. Nancy Pelosi, what is his name? Gavin Newsom, ridiculously getting elected over and over again and doing nothing for the people that they're supposed to represent. They just get elected over and over and over again because they have the right letter next to their name. They're the establishment, consistently staying in there, only working for their own self-interest. A lot of the people we see today who are consistently like out there, they get in the news all the time. They're the ones causing problems, causing riots, bringing in this negative culture that we're building around ourselves. Those are the ideologues, whether it be the far left-wing communist types or the far right-wing people, the white supremacists. They're all the same type of people. They're in that ideological camp. It's not a right or a left issue. It's a ideological issue. They only fight for an ideology. Then you've got some new people who are coming in, right? There's a couple different ones who are coming for a more principled stance. I think we're only really seeing them on a kind of smaller scale, local level, which is good. This is where they should be. And I don't know if they're there for I don't feel like they're there ideologically, right? I think you can see some of that on the Democratic side, but a lot of these like new up and comers on the right, as people would call them, like what's her name? Oh my God, what is her name? It's the poll lady. Was it Lisa Nancy Green? I don't remember her name. The one who's been in the news over and over again, and that they try to get thrown out. I wish I could remember her name off the top of my head, but I'm awful with it. She is someone who seems to be standing on principles above all else. And we've got other like local people. Like there's a senator who's running in Pennsylvania. He's running as a Republican. He seems like a principled guy, someone who just wants to make the place better for us, and actually instill like some real American values. There's a couple of these people popping up, and I think they're making a mistake in running for the Republican Party. Because like I said, the party system we have, I think, is drastically broken. Both the parties are basically the same thing at this point. You either fall into one of these four camps. You're either not involved, an establishment candidate, a ideologue, or a principled person. And unfortunately, I don't think there's many people who are principled, and there's definitely not enough who are actively working for the betterment of either party. I think it's time we actually stand up and start organizing on a smaller level. Start getting into local politics. Start creating small grassroots movements in our own communities. Create some new form of party that's entirely based off of principle. Like if you're joining that party, it's because you believe in a kind of fundamental uh, standard that we're gonna follow. You're gonna work for the people, by the people. You're there not to make a career, but to try and do some good in the time that you have, right? That's what I want to see more of. People actively working to better the community around them. They're not doing it for money, they're not doing it for power. They're doing it to see active change. And I think this is only going to come from the local level. I really do. I think there's a too much of a focus right now on a more national scale, and I think that's corrupting everybody's perception of what's going on around us, right? I think it's time people stand up and they start getting involved. And this can be at any level. I think it's gonna have to start at the grassroots local community, and we build. I don't know if we could come up with like a party name or even like just something to call ourselves so that you can you can at least see them. Or maybe that's not even a good idea, right? It may not even be a good idea because then you still get into the tribalistic politics, and that's not something I want to see continue on in our nation because it's rapidly tearing us apart from the inside. So maybe that's not the best idea, but still, principled people need to start getting out and starting pushing to take the local seats in our government so that we can see a drastic change on the local level, because it's all going to start from the smallest of areas and then it'll build up. The more people we have on this small local level, the more change we're going to see overall, because it'll spread as long as we get people involved and continuing to work for the betterment of everyone in the United States. Because I love this country, right? I don't want to see it fall into chaos and corruption. We have a good history. It's not perfect, but we can actively make it better if we just work at it. We don't have to tear down everything that makes us who we are. We can just reform it. That's what our country's founded on, is reform. That's what our amendments are to our Constitution. It's an attempt to reform what we've done and try to make it better for the future, right? So if we could just start working towards that locally and moving towards a better America for everybody. No race, no like political party, no class divide. Just trying to make it a nicer, safer place, because we can do that. We can be the shining beacon of hope that everyone across the world thinks of us as, or at least they used to. We can do that once again, where people want to come here actively. The people from South America who dream of coming to the promised land of America, we could actually be that. And if people followed the right procedures, they could come and live in that environment if we just started to build it again from a local level. Because everything starts in at a realistic level locally. Large scale changes don't really work because it's very top down, and it forces people to do what someone higher up wants, and no one wants to listen to some guy just dictating things to you. But if you're a part of a movement, right, to see positive change, that's how a lot of people get suckered into these mass movements all over the country right now. They promise change and justice, and they never see the underlying reason that it's ever pushed. It's always an ideological push instead of like a legitimate principled approach. We need more principles, and our nation's lost that over the past 50 to 100 years. Our principles are gone, and I think it's really time that we start to invest in those and try and bring them back, because if you don't have principles to stand on, what are you going to fall for? Thank you.